So just like now, electrical messages are moving around the circuits of the nervous system, and it's also moving in the computer. So let's go back to the PowerPoint, and groups of nerves. So you have your cervical plexus, your brachial plexus. You have nerves going to the digestive system. You have groups of nerves going to glands in the muscular system. So information can be spread out or converge, and that's all the way the processing occurs. So a signal can be spread and diverge to many other new neurons, or they can converge and have the information from multiple neurons uh, funneled through or allowed to lead to the electrical signals. So this information comes in electrical signal. There's a synapse here, but this is convergent because the electrical signals are being consolidated and their effect is processed and sent to this one terminal axon. Here, the information is spread out among multiple axons. Okay, make sure you read through this. So we talked about that. The layers that surround the central nervous system and the spinal cord are called meninges. There's 3 layers: dura mater, arachnoid, and pia mater. So the tough mother is the outside, then the arachnoid, and then the pia. Oops, I gotta make sure. Well, am I recording? Yep, I am recording. So let's check that to make sure we're moving along here. So let's go back here. So we're recording. Okay. We're presenting. Let's back to the PowerPoint. So let's keep going. So know what these mean, know where they're located. So here we have the brain, and on top of it are these layers that protect it and help control what goes into the brain. That's brought in by blood vessels, and their entry is controlled in the blood vessels by the appendable cells of the neuroglia. But the outside skull has a dura mater, 2 layers of the dura mater, the arachnoid layer because it looks like a spider web, and then the space and the soft or the delicate mother, the pia mater, which is directly on top on this brain. So there's much protection with the dura mater and the dura mater and the arachnoid layer, and then the pia mater. So there's multiple layers that protect and cover the nervous system, the spinal cord, and the brain. Okay, let's keep going. So the meninges are these layers that are covering the spinal cord as well as the brain. When a lady gives birth to a child, when they want to deaden her nerves so that she's relieved of pain, there's an injection into the epidural space. So that's above the dura mater, then the arachnoid, and then the sub arrangement of dura mater on the outside, and then arachnoid, and then pia mater. So the spinal cord has the same 3 layers that protect the spinal cord and isolate it from the rest of the cells and materials around it so that electrical signals can be carried in the spinal cord and brain. Okay, what does the spinal cord do? Relays information to and from the brain, processes information. There are 31 segments in the spinal cord. The dorsal root ganglia, and then the dorsal root is where information comes from the periphery or from the outside or from your finger and toe. And that information is organized in these groups of processes. So we have plexi. So information that is involved in the neck is the cervical plexus. Involved in the upper arm is the brachial plexus. So there is specialization for these nerves that carry information to the central nervous system and carry information away. So that's the spinal cord. We look at it again. We have a long spinal cord, and we have nerves entering and nerves not going away. So some nerves bring information back to the central nervous system. Other nerves bring information, once it's been processed, away from the central nervous system. That's called the efferent pathway, the EFFERENT, and that's information that's been processed and comes to the out of the central nervous system. So that's an efferent pathway. An afferent pathway is when information comes in from the outside and goes into the spinal cord, and some of that information is sent to the central nervous system. So the spinal cord has these ganglion. Ganglion means a cell body. So information comes in from the sensory system, information about heat, temperature, pain, pressure. All that information is carried through the dorsal root ganglia and then into the okay, so where are we right now? 204. We'll keep going a little bit. So the gray matter of the spinal cord is on the inside, whereas the gray matter of the cerebrum or the cerebral hemispheres is on the outside. So input comes from sensory systems through the dorsal root ganglia into the dark matter or gray matter of the spinal cord, and then the information leaves to cause muscles to contract through the ventral root, and those form the spinal nerves. The spinal nerves contain information carried to the central nervous system and information sent out. So there's a mixture of sensory and motor neurons. Okay, let's keep going. If you look at the gray matter of the spinal cord, different parts of this gray matter is organized up at the top to receive somatic sensory. Visceral sensory means input from your bladder, from your stomach, from your arms and legs with pressure. All that's somatic sensory. Visceral sensory is information from your bladder, from your information that automatically is adjusted, and we'll get into the automatic nervous system coming up. Okay, so make sure you know these segments in the spinal cord and where information moves into the spinal cord and leaves. So the motor trackways, the motor pathways carry information out of the central nervous system, and the somatic and visceral sensory nerves carry information to the central nervous system, where they can be processed by the spinal cord, and then information is also sent to the central nervous system. If we look at a microscope slide of the spinal cord, we can see Okay, so let's stop there. We'll stop recording, and we'll go here and stop recording,